Oh, we got ourselves in a bit of an eggy situation this week. Effy becomes eggy and Effy sucks eggs this week on Weekend at Effy's. But don't worry, we're not only talking about controversy, we're not even getting fired up about it. We're going to talk about the beautiful country of France. We're going to talk about Jimmy Lloyd being stuck in England. And we're going to talk about the brilliant, talented wrestlers of England. I'm so excited. Join us on this journey. weekendateffys.com for the Patreon. Support us there and follow along. It's time for another Weekend at Effy's. We are here in the magical mothership known as our cabin in the woods. I think I'm going to call it cabin in the woods. I think that's beautiful. I've had a wonderful week, a busy week, and I seemingly have brought home disease and despair with me, much like Lily Rose Depp's husband, Nicholas Holt. When he was in the Nosferatu's castle, and knowing that our house is now, home to, I'm worried. I'm worried. I'm the patient that, what do they call it? I'm like the rat that brings the
okay,
crust.
you also have to keep in mind that I'm not from this country. I can't handle y'all shit.
Okay, but I am also keeping in mind that you're not from this country and, like, don't answer the door. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll answer the door, Peter.
Yeah.
Because I know
it's like two different things.
You're a naturalized citizen.
It's like, look, when I got fucking arrested for weed back in 2013, back in 2013, I got pulled into immigration.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So there's always the possibility.
They had some questions.
I mean, Peter, they're sending ICE to the Native Americans who are indigenous to these lands. I don't know if there's any, like, we could be like, you shouldn't be worried, but I don't know. Here's what I want you to know, Peter. I will fight tooth and nail if anything ever happens. And you see that little puddle of goo right there that's name is Lucifer?
Yes.
She'll be fine until you get back. Do you remember when 21 Savage was deported? Okay, well, he got to come back too. All right, things weren't the same after, but they didn't keep 21 Savage away forever just because he's a British citizen.
This is true.
So I have hope, and I think if you're mad right now, good. The more of us that are mad, the better it is. And I've been on a general strike for about 5 years now. So if I can do it, you can do it. Let's strike together. I'll buy your 8x10s. I'll support the cause. We'll do what we have to do. Peter, I know you don't feel great this week recording, but I'm going to call you out, okay? You can't release it and say Effy is the champion and not have what Peter is. I'm sitting there reading the description of the episode last week going, what is Peter?
Oh.
You weren't even there.
I wasn't even there.
You are here.
I'm here.
And even if it's Peter is
here
struggling, I want to know. And the people want to know. You're a cherished part of this podcast, even though you were created by DeepSeek AI.
I appreciate that.
And the cure to my loneliness is this altered coding system that you are, according to some people. But you're a real person, and it's Weekend at Effy's. But honestly, fuck that guy. Let's just get it out of there. What is this guy? What does he think he is? I want to do an Effy's Big Gay Brunch commercial thing, but I just go up and cross the name Effy out, and I do a big thumbs up so that some people will still want to come. Hot topic of the week in the world of wrestling. You want to guess? Me, always. It's like, what a fucking joke. We'll get into all of that, but first we want to honor our wonderful Patreon subscribers at weekendateffys.com. You can sign up. You can support. We had some new sign-ups. What up, Fred? Here in the last few weeks. And there's other things you can get to, like what I just revealed on the mini-sode. Did we save the mini-sode or we're not sure?
We may have a mini-sode.
There's a mystery. If we don't, I'm telling you here, and it's fine. Technology's crazy.
And the astrology forecast will be delayed until Petár is healthy again.
Let me say something, Petár. You delay it as long as you need. You know what I found out about Effy fans? Not about Effy haters, about Effy fans. They're very understanding and patient. Yeah. I have a cameo that is a can you kind of inspire and lift me up cameo? And I have a day still to do it. I'm not doing it until I feel like I can inspire and lift you up because I can't fake it. That's one thing I don't have the capacity for. And so I'm looking at it going, this person's wondering where their cameo is. The fact remains, the cameo will come from a real place in Effy, and I'm not going to force that to come out. I'm very excited going forward, being the GCW champion. We're going to talk about my title defenses, which I'm pretty pumped about. But not to put too much work on your plate over here, Peter. I mean, genuinely, I'm making you go to work while you're sick. I'm worse than a lot of bosses that are forcing people to return to office. Do we have any questions from our Patreon?
We
this
do
week?
have questions.
If you want to ask questions, you've got to sign up. weekendateffys.com. Anyone who signs up for the Patreon can ask questions, but you got to be on there. And we have a new vlog, a 21-minute vlog covering the last 4 months of shows. Pretty crazy. Up on weekendateffys.com. It's the only way you can see it. I don't care if one person sees it or if 1,000 people sees it. I only want the people to see it who have access to the Patreon.
Wow, these questions are crazy.
Great.
All right. This is from Rob. We're just going to hit it.
Let's
now
hit
that Effy is GCW champion, how soon until Patreon prices are doubled?
Okay, let's say this. Should I raise all my prices across the board because I'm the champion now and it's a big deal? No, I shouldn't. I should raise some prices for promoters,
prices, yeah.
But I'm not sticking it to my people who stuck with me this long. And now in a moment of glory, you try to sweep up as much money as you can. Effy has always been an extremely long-term figure who wants to be a quantifiable in your life. And to do that, you have to have a balance of greed versus humble pricing. And I think we found a good balance. You know, one of my friends who runs a clothing company said to me, do you know how you raise your prices and make things more expensive? I said, how? And he said, by raising your prices and making it more expensive.
Right.
And that's the fact. That's there. I see it across the board. I don't want to undercut anyone, especially if I'm doing merch at a table, I'm going to charge what the people at the table are charging for the shirts. I don't want to, make it a premium all the time to see Effy. I want you to still be there after I'm not the champion. Who knows when that could be? It could be another decade before I lose the belt, but I'm not looking to cash out and end, I'm not retiring as champion and then not going to be Effy anymore. We're going to continue. We're taking bookings. We're doing this. I'm defending the GCW championship in March, if I have it then, for the first time ever in Western Canada. So shout out Love Wrestling. Pretty crazy stuff to see that happening. And I don't want to create a larger separation between the Effy that's just Effy and the Effy that's a champion Effy. This one's for you. You remember that Bud Light commercial?
Yeah.
Where they were like, Mr. Wedding Band Guitar Player,
Yeah.
this one's for you. So like this one's for you. Like I won the belt. I told the people I'd do it.
I like the frogs.
Which one was the frog? They're making the frogs gay?
No, well, I mean, yeah.
Oh, that was Bill O'Reilly. Sorry. Or that was Alex Jones?
The Budweiser frogs.
Oh, yeah. Budweiser. So you're saying Budweiser actually is what made the frogs gay.
Mm-hmm.
Exclusive. Effy's podcast claims Budweiser made the AI co-host of Weekend at Effy's has made claims furthering the validity that AI can think on its own. Right? No, we're not going to raise the Patreon prices right now. But we would love if you shared, what it meant to you to be a Patreon person. I see people share the link sometimes. It helps us out tremendously. I don't want to have this turn into a Hims, sepaglutide, BetterHelp fucking tragedy.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to, pay some bills on this. It would be great. We'll get more people on here. It's wonderful. Any other questions from our Patreon, Peter?
What do you call a bear with no teeth? A gummy bear.
I was really trying to rattle my brain there. I realized where I was at. You still got me. Fantastic.
Thank you, James, for that one.
James, great job.
Oh, this is going to be a shameful question. This is from Danny. I've been getting lucky with finding movies to watch, even Nintendo Switch games at my library. How's the library situation in your area? We still haven't been.
Yeah, I'm honestly so embarrassed. It's very close. It's not far from us.
No.
There's a bunch of them. There's no excuse. Let's go find out. When you're feeling a little better, might be next week, let's go do it. Let's hold ourselves to it. Let's walk to the library. I saw a band play at a library one time.
What band?
I saw two bands play at the library one time.
What band did you
One
see?
was the High Strung, one of my favorite retro pop bands. They ended up leaving their tour van at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They just parked it out front and left a note that was like, "This is a piece of rock and roll history." But I also saw a band called Harry and the Potters. Are you familiar?
I am very familiar with Harry and the Potters.
Not transphobes.
Incredible.
As a band, they've made that statement, so good to hear.
What was the song? Do you want to go back to the way it was?
I don't remember all the songs. I do remember. I
fully know Harry.
Those are the two
Potters,
bands I saw in libraries. High Strung was just doing library tours because the libraries wouldn't charge them venue fees. They would advertise it for them, and kids love to buy bright colored merch. I thought it was great. I thought they were geniuses. Continuez avec moi.
Voldemort can't stop the Rock. Hell yeah.
Voldemort can't stop the Rock. But I will say Ralph Fiennes can stop my... whatever. Conclave. Check it out. It's on Peacock.
My teacher is a werewolf. Yeah, these fucking... Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Hell
Fuck
yeah.
J.K. Rowling. Long live Harry and the Potters.
Yeah, long live
That's
Harry
where we
and the
stand.
Potters.
If you have a Deadly Hallows tattoo, just tell them it's a Harry and the Potters tattoo.
Yeah.
Because, fuck IP. All right? That's what I say. Any other questions, Peter?
Uh-huh. Okay.
From my adoring fans.
This is from Miguel. Do you have a favorite Marilyn Manson song?
Maybe, but I'm discount on Marilyn Manson now after all of the Evan Rachel Wood information that was released. And it's really hard to go back and listen to artists like that. I mean, like, as much as I would like to joke that AI should replace all of R. Kelly's songs with versions of them sung by Seal, I also am fine with separating the art from the artist by putting them both in the trash if I have to. And it was very cool to have The Beautiful People as the SmackDown theme song and see that kind of crossover. Mm-hmm. So I'll say that. Just it's corny, it's back. The Tainted Love cover is good as well, but also throw it all in the trash. I don't stand by, continuing to support the creative output of someone who was creatively influenced by doing horrible things to other people. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of where I have to, that's like where the argument always comes back to for me is like, but if their art was inspired by the things they were doing and how they were living, then their art is definitively inspired by horrible actions.
Yeah.
You know, I can't watch the Cosby Show.
He also wrote up a bunch about that stuff way back. I mean, I remember reading Long Road Out of Hell and being like, are you sure you wanted to put this in a book?
Yeah, I don't know if this should be in a book.
This is kind of crazy that you admitted to all of this stuff. And I remember I've read that back in high school.
Yeah. I read the Kiedis book back in high school and I remember thinking, wait, is this guy admitting to teenage girls being okay? This is not good. This is not the behavior. And I knew that as a teenage boy.
Yeah, exactly.
You go I don't think we should be seeing adults in that way. Even if they're in cool rock bands, maybe this is something they're using to manipulate. Maybe they're making good music so that they can manipulate other people. And maybe if I like the music, I'm condoning manipulation. I don't know. And maybe I'm overthinking it and being a dark woke lib,
Yeah, but it's also like did you see any of the person that outed Neil Gaiman saying, hey, this guy had a hand, this wasn't the way that I wanted it to go?
Yeah, you don't get to choose how it goes. When you release information like that into the world, we're actually going to have a discussion on that in a very different way about, choosing to release information into the world does open it up to discussion and criticism, and choosing to release information about that information into the world does open up the artist to respond. So we'll get into that. Next question, Peter.
This is from Pork. I hope I'm not too late, but Effy, if I grab one of those alien egg dildos, bedazzle it with thumbtacks, and insert eggs, would there be room for that in a match?
You would have to pay me to use that in a match. This doesn't sound like something that, number one, given the recent controversies, I'm being a little pickier about my spots. Number two, this sounds like it could hurt. You know what I mean?
That sounds painful.
And I would I can make $50 go a whole lot further. If that makes any sense. You know what I mean? So I'm going to say no to the, was that a thumbtack alien egg dildo?
Egg dildo.
Yeah, doesn't sound. We did get 2 uses out of the last thumbtack dildo, which I thought was important. But after having some discussions, I'm picking and choosing where to make my stand. I'm not making my stand with this one. Yeah. Any other questions, Peter?
Yeah.
Oh, we've got,
so we got.
thank you all for being so
Yeah.
interested and asking so much. There's no dumb questions. There's only dumb answers, and I'm going to give them.
This is from Clussy. Petár, if this is too personal to ask, you don't have to answer, but are you dating or putting yourself out there at all?
We just had this discussion.
Would love to pick your brain about this because it is just awful out there. I think it is a particularly difficult time to be single as a human being. I think that we in general have a lot of just fucking nonsense when it comes. Like, I think back to Shake It, Outcast. And when that came out, I would have been like, I don't know, in 6th grade, something like that.
Yeah, like 13 or 14.
And that was a song that was lamenting the fact that we had zero good model or role models for what relationships are supposed to look like. That is a song that's inherently about how we're all just broken as human beings, and that when we try to love other people, we in fact are fucking horrible to them and do all the things that our parents, cruelly did to whoever it was that they were with. And I don't feel like that has really gotten fixed.
No, but I also nobody's really the enemy in this, and maybe there are some, but it is also the concept of like, there is a level of yourself in dating that you try to put the best foot forward. And it does feel like right now, the capacity to add to the work or energy it takes to be ourselves, we don't have the additional energy or capacity to fake anything, even if we're not doing it for nefarious reasons. But like, the first date, you don't want to open up and be like, here's my 19 years of trauma. Let me just get this out here.
But that's where I'm at right now, where I go, unless you want to deal with that, I don't care.
But I don't even think it's deal with that. I think it's like, do you even feel like opening and sharing to that level with a new person at this moment?
No.
Or are we in a better capacity now? Because I even think within relationships that, we're all dealing with stuff we haven't dealt with before. The world is shifting at a rapid pace. We can deal with it how we have to deal with it. But I know that sometimes you have to deal with certain things on your own. And being able to give another person space or do that, I think I see a lot of relationships that have fallen apart where there's one side that doesn't want to let up the grip to let a person make discoveries on their own or do things on their own. And that's absolutely not the case with me, but it is a case that I see across the board of, we're all going through a lot of changes. It's very hard to want to be fully attached at this point to another person. We have to, in some ways, economically speaking, be it through roommates or friends or other things, to live in that capacity. But also, I don't see a lot of people with the additional energy to get to the level of comfort to find romance or intimacy at a level that isn't just like trash hookups.
Yeah, which it's like I don't have a lot of interest in those anymore. I mean, it's crazy how we just keep developing new STDs and they're all really fucking gnarly, and none of that sounds particularly fun. Like, we lost prep care. Like,
and
there's
also
all kinds of things.
Bird flu. They're not going to tell us who has it. The
100%.
capacity of there to be contagious diseases out there that could alter your life for a few weeks, alter your income. If hooking up with you means I have to pay for testing and pay for things and pay for worries and have symptoms that keep me from doing things, it's not worth it's not worth the time.
All of that outweighs my horniness on any given day of the week.
But I think also cutting that portion of it out, not saying you have to approach things in a fully asexual way, not that that's not valid if that's you, our capacity to understand humans is a little bit better if the relationship isn't looking to be that. I think that like if things happen and they turn into that, that's wonderful. But if you're not seeking that out and you're talking with someone without the underlying tone or intention of moving it to an intimate level, there's a much better communication flow that forms and a much better boundary that forms in when and when not to approach or bring up or get deeper into things with someone, because you're respecting them beyond just any physical form. You're having a mindful conversation. And like, I think the best relationships end up coming from that anyway, but like, they also don't have to be intimate relationships. Right now, I think is a great time to find bonds with people that don't have that, additional hook in them.
Yeah.
Because, communicating, I've found, is the best way to get through any kind of anxieties or worries that I've had. And that's just me, but I think it's a lot of people, where if we have more of a lifeline where we can reach out to people, where there's not the underhanded notion, and we saw it in the film Presence yesterday. Please go listen to the minisode if it works. If not, go see Presence. It rules. Having these underlying things, when you open yourself up to people, it also puts a stain on the future of the way that you're able to open up to those people when that is, their main focus for wanting to hear how your day was. When they don't care how your day was, they know it's a step in the cog to getting this other thing.
Right.
When you pull that out of it completely, the people who are asking you how your day is actually want to know how your day is. Pretty good.
Yeah, and I think those are kind of more the relationships that I value. I don't know. It's also like I just fucking turned 35. Like I'm not in I haven't been in a serious relationship since before the pandemic started. Yeah. So where it's like I don't necessarily even know what I'm looking for in a relationship. So it's like, why would I waste somebody's time like that, you know?
Yeah. And what does it add to what you already have going on in a positive or a negative? Where you've got a pretty good schedule, right? We're starting to get into a little bit of a schedule, outside of I don't know, from November to January, the middle of January was just kind of like, it felt like I was just tumbling down a hill a little bit. Not that it was completely out of control, but just like it kept happening.
Yeah.
So, I think we will have plenty of time in the future where there's a little bit more stability to the way we live human life. But right now, I think we're in a completely unstable time. I don't think it's crazy to say that. I don't think it's a completely horrible thing either. But I think just looking around and trying to find out who the people you need to have your communications with is absolutely vital to surviving the next couple of years, with some semblance of sanity.
Yeah.
You know that band U2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Why is C afraid of the rest of the alphabet? Because all the other letters are Nazis.
Oh, punch Nazis, fuck Nazis, we'll never stand for them. And of course, it's usually one scared baby who influences other people to be scared with them. It's a terrible time. What a world. We are going to talk about, speaking of World War II and storming the beaches of Normandy, I went to France for the first time this weekend. I do want to say, AJ sending me the text back. I landed in Paris about 6 a.m. Paris time, and that would be about midnight here. And I texted AJ and said, landed safe in Paris. And he wrote, what the fuck? How did I not know you're going to Paris? I go, I maybe just didn't tell you. He goes, well, how long are you gone? Like, will I not see you until next weekend? And I was like, I'll be back Monday. I'm also going to London. What a world. Which means that in the first month, and because I'm not flying in a plane to Indianapolis, thank God, there's already been issues. I kind of knew this first week of Trump time would not be the best for it. I want to pull up my Flighty. Flighty is an app that tracks my flights. It helps me understand. So already in the month of January, I've had 12 flights, 2 of them long haul. I've flown for a full day and 14 hours, so a day and a half of my month already. 11 different airports, 4 different airlines, 14,304 miles for the first month, Jesus. Which means we are actually operating below frequency for the average of last year. I just got some news about dates in the rest of the year, and it will be extremely high. I do believe I'll be back in Japan at some point this year. So we'll see how that goes. I am going to make sure I go to the 1010 store this time.
Hell yeah.
We didn't talk about the 1010 game on the mini-sode. Gosh. Now, I've never been to France, and AJ has been to France, and he said, I didn't really like it. No offense to the French.
Yeah.
I think
they make it that way so we don't go there.
Well, I had an experience towards the end of my time in France that was very much, you're a stupid American. And so I said, oh, am I? Well, then let me show you, stupid American. And I think it took, the full day of being there to get to that point. I don't think this is everyone. But for the most part, from the moment I stepped in France, fucking loved it.
Oh.
It was fantastic.
Shit.
I, of course, immediately landed, was pretty dehydrated after this flight. You try to drink, but I don't want to keep getting up and peeing, and had 2 oranginas. Is it orangina? Orangina? It's probably Orangina. You don't want to call it an Orangina. But this is very much the same as the Fagos that they have in Europe, where the orange Fago has orange juice in it. You know, they're using real sugar and real juice in these drinks, but the Orangina is a bit more of a lightly sweetened thing. And I remember taking French in high school, and I'm not going to say his name, but one of the first crushes I ever had was in that French class. It was one of the new kids that came in, and I was like, I don't think either of us knew what we were for real, but I was just also like, there's boys like this. I want to be his best friend. Do best friends kiss? Kind of that vibe. But our teacher was Madame Trebucki, which is, she was Polish, but she taught French, and she let us taste Orangina back then when we were taking the French class. I did, when I went to Spain when I was in college for 10 days, I didn't speak any Spanish. And I'll tell you, the best way to learn a language is to just be completely immersed in it. And I spent time in Madrid and Alicante, and I learned a little Spanish in that time, enough to get around, enough to order, enough to, communicate in that way. Where's the bus, kind of stuff. But landing in France, I found that like, oh shit, I did take 8 years of French in college, in high school and college. And luckily I got to, they had Hal with BZW. Bangers on Wrestling was incredible. Picked us right up from the airport, took us straight up to the venue. He said, I brought you some croissant and some chocolate croissant. We had croissants in the van, me and Maki Ito and Jimmy Lloyd. Now, sidebar, before I get further into France, Jimmy Lloyd is currently trapped in the UK. He somehow, I don't know how, lost his passport in the last day. I was flying out from London Monday morning and had to leave the suitcases with Manders, who was also flying out to Manchester Monday morning, who had to leave the suitcases with the hotel that he left behind. I guess he never got the suitcases and then got to the airport and realized he did not have his passport. The embassy, he's traveled to the embassy 4 times. They have not let him leave. But in the meantime, he seems to have met a new girlfriend and has been to 4 plays in the West End and has really enjoyed the cuisine of London. I got to say this, Jimmy Lloyd makes the best out of any situation. I hope he makes it to Indianapolis by Friday. He is now trapped in England. I don't know how this is working for him. He seems to have also gotten a part-time job somehow. And Jimmy Lloyd, we wish you well, but I'll say this. And I'm not going to go into further detail, but if at any point in your life you doubt Robert De Niro and Matt Damon's co-star from the 2008 film The Good Shepherd, you're a fool, because Jimmy fucking Lloyd is a different fucking lad, they say over there. He's a different fucking lad himself, I'll tell you that. And I think that he lives the stories that we want to tell, and there's a bravery and courage of doing that. So thank God Jimmy Lloyd is trapped in Europe, because this is only going to add to the legend and lore of young Jimmy Lloyd, the former broski who turned his back on Matt Cardona, now trapped in London. This is possibly an international cooperative takedown of Jimmy Lloyd because of his past dealings with Matt Cardona, so to speak. I don't know. I am not a conspiracy theorist, but it sounds a little bit like a conspiracy. Right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we get to the venue there, and I've got to say that this is, it was a beautiful venue. We had over 700 people at the GCW show that day, but you park, and there's soccer fields, and there's a community center, and you go, baby, indie wrestling is indie wrestling. The place was beautiful. We had locker rooms, we had bathrooms, we had showers, full catering. The French catering, by the way, at the show was meats and croissants and cheeses and little sweets and little desserts and baklava and coffee and sodas and water. And I've got to say, the coffee cups, I thought I was being pranked. They're literally the same size as the mouthwash cups that you would get at the dentist, except for I see Aigle Blanc, who's just a gorgeous, handsome, talented French wrestler who's incredible in the ring. But he's a 6'3" man, and he's holding this tiny cup. And I go, are you kidding me? I said, in America, we got a Trenta size, and it's this big. And he goes, just try it. And so I have one little cup of this coffee. And I had, at this point, fallen asleep on the stage while the earlier show was happening. So I went back. I had the little cup of coffee before I did a Q&A. And the one cup of coffee fucking woke me up.
Ooh.
What are they putting in our coffee here that's not making it as powerful? I only needed this one little cup of, and you're going, well, it's probably espresso. Yeah, it probably is, but I'm saying I put 4 shots of espresso in my dirty chai, and that thing barely gets my bowels moving. I'm talking, I had one little cup of coffee with a sugar in it, and I was ready to go. I answered questions for 40 minutes during the Q&A. Now, we discussed this ever so slightly, but my favorite part is when you talk to everyone at the show who is French, they are attempting or speaking very well in English because in other countries they know multiple languages, as is tradition. And then when I did the Q&A, they would have someone in the audience ask a question in French, and then Hal would translate the question to me in English. I would answer back then in English, and then he would translate my full, long, rambling statement immediately to French. But what I found interesting was I would finish my statement in English, and there would be a few people who would react. Very few. Like in the teens out of a lot. And then he would repeat the line in French, and they would go nuts, which they didn't not understand what I was saying in English, but then hearing it in French, they were pumped. Wow. And it made me feel... very cool, but also like was a hilarious bit because the delay of him speaking in French while I'm sitting in the chair in the ring with him to hear whether or not what I just said was going to be a good answer or not was like Larry David levels of Curb of just like, I would finish and I would look around and then he would be thinking and then he would say it all out and they'd be like, oh, and that to me was very French and awesome to do. I had so much fun. Now, in 1 week's time, I lost my former tag partner who was trying to kill me anyway, who had a horrible accident. Alley catch, get well soon. I won the GCW championship from Mance Warner at Hammerstein and then defended that championship twice in England and France. And the first defense of this title actually was not the first live defense. As we speak now, no one has seen this match yet that occurred Saturday night because it debuts tonight at 8 p.m., the same time I'm doing this seminar. Now, the last time I did an in-person seminar was the week after the whole Coney Tan debacle. And so now I'm doing a seminar the week after a whole nother debacle, which like the last time I was like, hey guys, I know this seems like a weird time to be taking a seminar from me. Guess what? There's never not a weird time to be taking a seminar from Effy. And I love all the comments I was seeing that was like, people are going to take a seminar. And I go, guys, how do you think I trend nationally almost every month without fail for something, and yet continue to be booked constantly and continue to sell merch and have a podcast and have fans around the globe? Let me tell you, there's something everyone in this industry can learn from me, but you've got to pay the throttle to get into this boy's mind soul. So if you've signed up, that'll be tonight. That's great. By the time this episode comes out, it will have already happened. But we are going to sell the replay because there's a lot of people who couldn't come. And I'd be, I think, a fool not to do that. So, spoiler alert, the replay will be for sale. Connor Mills is someone who I think we've only met maybe once or twice during times in England or times where Progress was in the U.S. or around that. And maybe even just once, honestly. But when I first met him, are we still recording or is it? Okay. The first time I ever met Connor Mills, he was just as tall as he is now, which is like, 6'3", maybe 6'4" in the boots, but he was maybe 2/3 of the weight that he is now. And this is weight that is pure physical muscle. And at this time, the original time, he had 2 little pigtails. He had very long hair. It was giving very much like Twink with a Dream. And now this man shows up in the Okada bikers. This man shows up completely muscled out of his brain with a shaved head. And I went, oh no, I'm in fucking trouble. The joke I made at first to the French people during the Q&A was, thank God I'm fighting a British person tonight, because if it was a Frenchman, I don't know if I could beat him here in his home country. And they all started chanting for Connor Mills. Now, Peter, I know I'm not surprising you here, a lot of times I'm the most cheered person in my match. And sometimes because I'm against someone very evil, sometimes just because a lot of people are fans of me. The French people were 100% behind Connor Mills in this match. And Connor Mills was 100% on top of me because I swear he was trying to break my knees off of my legs, break my ankles and feet. It was one of the most painful matches I've had, at least in the last 3 or 4 years. I think back to some of the strikes I was taking from Suzuki, strikes I took early on, like at Black Label Pro from Tom Lawler. These are real mean, meaty strikes. And I'd recently seen a match he had with Zack Sabre Jr., where he also was just trading submissions with one of the best mat grappler technician wrestlers in the world. So not only is this man 70 pounds heavier, he also has been studying ways to break bones. And I got to tell you guys, if you saw the match with Cara Noir, or if you saw whatever else happened, there were sillier moments in that. This was a fucking fight. I was fighting for my life. He was gigantic. Picking him up over my head multiple times wore me out more than about anything. I was kicked in the face within an inch of my life and had my ankles almost ripped off. And I still was able to pull out a victory over Connor Mills. Now, do I like having these moments not be very definitive? Yeah, I would like to be done with the match in 10 minutes and hold my belt up and go to the back and pound some fists. That sounds great, but that's not what I'm going to have in any of my title reign. Peter, I'm going to be clawing and scratching to get through some of these opponents. I think back to the first year I had with GCW. And Brett will tell you directly, I'm going to put you through the meat grinder. And some of the matches and opponents I had were really giving it to me to make sure I was able to, wrestle and act at that stage and that level, consistently full time, which I have then continued doing for 5 years. I'm laying a lot of hints now about how many wrestlers I've wrestled so that we can make a point later. Connor Mills, I did a promo at the end basically saying like, you could easily be a GCW outlaw, but I also hope I never see you again because you beat my ass. But secondly, dude, you should be in New Japan. You should be in the G1 Climax. You should be, in AEW. You should be on WWE. You should be a guy who is at the top of the game in this world. And if that means I don't get you until a long time from now, or if the opportunity doesn't arise because you have other things going on, that's even better. And I think having that attitude confuses people sometimes. It didn't confuse Connor Mills, but saying sort of like, I hope I don't see you again because I hope it means greater things from you. It's not dismissive of what my position is or where I'm at or who I'm wrestling in front of. I mean, I went to France, a country I've never been to in my entire life, and had a crowd of 700 people chanting for me at certain points when they weren't chanting for Connor Mills. That to me is incredible and shows kind of where we are at as a business in the way that we distribute and operate. I shouldn't be able to have 700 people in France already know who I am. That's crazy, but that's where we are. But I want bigger things for these opponents that I go through. And also selfishly, if I keep having to have matches like I had that day in France, I am going to be physically broken. I am going to break down. The man grabbed my leg from the top rope when I thought I was kicking at him and then just spun it back into the ring, pulling me about 5 feet off the ground, crunching my leg and knee into the mat. I still had to get up and do stuff. It was painful. It was hard. I succeeded, but what I'm looking at is I'm very proud of holding this belt, and every time I look at it, I go, Bubba, you're going to have a rough year, and you thought you had a rough year last year, and now you have a thing they're going to steal from you. This is, I've signed up to be the champion, and now I'm realizing what it means to be the champion. But I was asked about, the controversies I've had, right? And I said something during the French Q&A that I've said here before, which is when they say, this is what Effy said, they now will have to put, this is what GCW, Game Changer Wrestling Champion, Effy said. And then little did I know, only a week would pass before someone said, you've had the belt for 2 weeks and you've already had all this press. And I go, I've had the belt for 1 week and I've already had all this press. We took a beautiful train that morning from Lille, France to London, England, right to Camden Station through the underground by taking a bullet train through the Channel.
Ooh.
And I've never gotten to do that before. My mother has gotten to do that. Peter, did we announce last week that my mother is coming to the Big
No,
Gay
this
Brunch?
is new.
She's
This is new.
listening here. You know, she hit me up and said, how much are tickets? And, you know, I want to sell as many tickets as possible. I will never make my mother buy a ticket to a show that she's traveling to Las Vegas for to see me in my environment. And I want to say this to everyone out there. She would love to meet you. My mother's very gregarious. Don't overstep the boundaries with mom because she's meaner than me when she has to be. We both are people who listen and learn. And I think her father, my grandfather, taught us a lot of that of when people speak to you, it's because they feel comfortable with you and they want you to, you know, share that with them. And that's beautiful. You should always respect that. But make sure she can still watch the show and give her $10 for taking pictures with her if you're going to do that. She will probably try to hand it back to you. I don't care. I want to be able to take her out to Gordon Ramsay's for dinner and her to have spending money and things to be really nice and beautiful for her while she's in Las Vegas. But it made me so excited for the show because there's a comfort level to having someone who has loved you since you were born and loved every version of you and been forgiving of you when you have failed or not been a perfect person to come and see this 10th time in America, 13th time I've run a gay event, 10th time in America that the Big Gay Brunch through GCW has happened in the largest room we've ever run, in the biggest, you know, event we've ever done. I think she's coming to see it at the perfect time. And some would say, like, what a fitting end to the brunch. And I would say, let me see how y'all behave before I decide if this is it. Let me see how things go before I decide if this is it. Because I read my co-star today. I told you I laughed so hard. I was telling you, hey, I've started booking the Big Gay Brunch and I'm not at all stressed out about it for some reason. I was talking with Brett last night. We were going through the first round of announcements and what to do. And my co-star today said, you're learning not to overthink it. And thank God. And the do's, like I told you earlier, the do's are the funniest part because the do, one of them is fishnets. And for me to not overthink it, for me to be told to wear the fishnets, I'm very excited for the comfort level that I've received in the past few weeks. And part of that is being validated as being in a position to represent a company as champion. That is a very cool thing, especially in a time. It's not like it's clear waters and all of a sudden I'm the GCW champion. This is in a tumultuous time, and a tumultuous time that I've caused some of the tumult of, if we're being honest. And the truth being, that's what Game Changer Wrestling's always been about, is going, we don't care what you think wrestling is. We don't care what you like about wrestling. We don't care what your advertisers told you to watch on wrestling or put on wrestling. We're making the shit that we think is good because we think it's good. And some people go, oh, it's a certain type of wrestling. It's this or that. No, it's the pinnacle of cruiserweight style, of lucha libre style, of hard-hitting style, of storyline style, of hardcore, of deathmatch, of comedy, of all of these things that wrestling can be, because the entirety of our show is built towards giving the fans the best version of wrestling that we as professionals enjoy. Now, I have for years tried to have the match that I had on Sunday. I know we've discussed this legendary venue because I've wrestled there for Progress before. Hamish Steele, when I was cast on Dead India Paranormal Park, the author of the original Dead End series, came to the Electric Ballroom to see me wrestle. It's a place I've seen a lot of wrestling in from a distance and have gotten to wrestle in multiple times. I've gotten to tag there with Ali. I've gotten to have a multitude of matches. But there's someone who's very famous in the Electric Ballroom that I've never had the chance to wrestle. And you think about the famous people who've performed in the ballroom. Recently I saw, and it's in the vlog, Deadmau5 performed there long ago. Frank Sinatra performed there even longer ago. The Grateful Dead have performed in the Electric Ballroom. I believe the Rolling Stones have performed in the Electric Ballroom. Jimi Hendrix himself has performed in the Electric Ballroom. And yet, when I think of this ballroom, when I think of someone who encapsulates the energy of British wrestling, of the physicality, of the theatrics, of being very particular in self and what you're presenting, I think about Cara Noir. And Cara Noir is someone I've watched for a long time. The Black Swan of wrestling, just very much fully invested in presenting Cara Noir the exact way it needs to be presented. And so when this match was announced, I was so exceedingly excited. And then when this match was announced, I was once again nervous in my throat because the GCW championship was going to be on the line in this match. And I'm telling myself, and this is going to be a continued conversation where I continue having to hype myself up to go, the match I want to have with Cara Noir, the match that Effy and Cara Noir have that people I think have been asking for years, that I myself have been asking for years, now has to be under the glory of the GCW championship. Does that alter how I operate? Does that alter how I win? And I think back and I go, don't believe the opposition. You've always been in it to win. I've used a lot of methods of mind play, of de-escalation in certain forms that have come across to people in a certain way. But I had to remind myself that I've always been in the match with the intent to win. How do you win? You pin someone for 3 seconds. You win by making them tap out. And there's a lot of ways to get to that moment happening. And so, no, I promised myself the match I'm having with Cara Noir, be it for the GCW championship or not, is going to be Effy versus Cara Noir. And the card itself was extremely strong. Megan Bain and Masha Slamovich was incredible to a time limit draw. Mance Warner versus Drew Parker. Mance furious after last week's loss of his title to one Effy. Darice versus Maki Ito. Jimmy Lloyd taking on Leon Slater, who's now signed with TNA. Young talent that I've gotten to share the ring with. Big F and Joe taking on Joey Janela in a classic GCW crazy match. And the main event being me and Cara Noir. And these are guys that are not only my, peers, but they're people I look up to as wrestlers. And so I have it in my heart that, yes, I'm going to be Effy and do this, but we have to go and give them the fucking spectacle to the highest degree. And I feel a little bit like I shouldn't reveal everything, but I do want to say Cara Noir came to me, the person who portrays Cara Noir, and said, please say no to this if you're uncomfortable. And pitched me an idea that we sort of started figuring out how that would play in. And we found a wonderful place for it. And we said, there's really nowhere to go from there. And it made sense to us. And so we both have pretty dramatic entrances. This goes on a while. The show has gone on swimmingly quick. So we have all the time in the world to, settle ourselves, to portray our characters, to give them these moments. And a lot of wrestling takes place before the last minute. This is a 15 and a half minute match. They gave us 12 to 15 for a main event. I said, we'll go as long as we want. Turns out 15 and a half is exactly what we wanted. And a lot of wrestling goes on, a lot of intricate holds, a lot of movement, a lot of high impact moves. And then, of course, we go back to a Cara Noir specialty. I say a specialty because this is a move that in the history of Cara Noir, if you're a fan of Cara Noir, you would have seen him do. I think one of the first times I saw it myself was when he was doing it with Su Yung, but he's done it with many, many, many other British wrestlers, but he has never done it like this. And that's why I say it has to be Effy versus Cara Noir. I never want to be in a situation where I'm just having someone else's match to highlight them. If you end up having a match with Effy that only highlights Effy, that's on you. I assure you, I'm trying to put both of us into this thing. But with a character as strong as Cara Noir, who is popular in England as Cara Noir, I knew that this had to match both of our energies. So I will present the full spot to you. This starts with Cara Noir getting sent out of the ring by me. And I crawl away. I'm very hurt at this point. He's put a lot of pain in my body. He's a very accomplished athlete on top of being quite a wild spectacle of a character to look at. And he brings in himself and reaches down his pants while he's standing over me and pulls out an egg. And he then proceeds to try to put this egg in my mouth. Well, me thinking, no way, I grab underneath him and I power bomb him, and he rolls through and gets up, and he's still holding the egg. So I get up and I give him a blockbuster over his head. And he drops the egg and quickly picks it back up, and he still has the egg, and I'm pissed. I start stalking him. He's clearly hurt. And I spear him just like Bobby Lashley would, and he flies out of the ring, and I think we're done with this. I'm finally going to end it. And then I look to the side, and he's rising up, and he's still holding his egg. So I go over there, and I grab that peacock by his hair, and I grab that egg out of his hand, and I go, no, I'm not doing this. And I walk to the other side of the ring by the hard camera so they can see me. And I show them the egg. And I go, fuck this egg. And I throw that egg on the ground to be broken. Well, someone switched the egg. This was a fake egg. And in the confusion, he gets behind me. He kicks me. Someone said he got kicked and went down to the wrong knee. We're about to get into me being a little bit feisty. If you get kicked standing in the back of your leg, this leg buckles, this leg goes down to support it. I'm buckling to check my knee. I did not go down to the wrong leg. I'm not explaining myself further to non-wrestlers who want to think they're in wrestling. He then pulls me back, and I'm in pain too. I've tried to fire up, but he's found my weaknesses. And he baby birds an egg that he has cracked and hidden inside his mouth into my mouth. But let me tell you something. I'm a dirty freak. And so I start smiling. I keep that egg in my mouth. And I'll tell you what, Peter, it's the first time I've tasted anything like that I haven't swallowed. Because spitters are quitters. But I'm not quitting today. I'm changing the game. He then tries to throw a clothesline at me that I flip under him and I put him down in the same position he had me. And I feed the bird the egg that he fed me. He then freaks out and I kick him in the face. The egg sprays everywhere into the sky. Sack Rider 1, 2, 3, Effy retains because you can't freak Effy out. Effy's more disgusting than you. Is there salmonella in raw eggs? Hot take, not in England because they've bred it out of their chickens and they have safe farming to make sure it's not. They don't even refrigerate their eggs over there. Pretty incredible stuff. I don't think anything much of this. Because it's just a silly. I've done 1,000 and something matches. This is just a silly thing that you do. And to me, it set up a really fun back end that sort of like transfixes this story. We had a lot of, me being Effy and the use of the mouth throughout the match. So this kind of built up, and I don't even look online. When I'm traveling overseas, sorry to everyone trying to get in contact. If I don't have Wi-Fi, I don't have service. I leave my phone entirely on airplane mode, whether I'm gone somewhere a week or 2 days or 1 day or 5 days or whatever it may be. I'm not paying for overseas service. I'll find Wi-Fi somewhere. And if I don't have it, you know where I am. The dates are up. I'm in France. I'm in England. You don't need to contact me. So I don't really even look online. And then my goodness gracious, it starts. And people are very mad that me and Cara Noir have done this. And some of them are mad because it's disgusting. That's not wrestling. That's not what wrestling's supposed to be. And I even said after the match that, the people want to see what wrestling is, and wrestling isn't 1 or 2 or 5 or 100 things. It's infinite. Wrestling is infinite. And the real thing they don't like to hear is I'm a trained professional, but if it gets over in a wrestling ring during a wrestling match, it's pro wrestling. The highest rated cable segment in all of wrestling history. Do you know what it was, Peter? It's Mick Foley with a sock on his hand, acting like a puppet, going through The Rock's life in a comedy segment where they keep going to fake clips and sketches. That's the highest rated professional wrestling television in history. I love the matches. I love the moves. I love the art, the physicality. I also recognize what pro wrestling is. I even said it in my life of, which is if you're just good at matches, entrances, promotional material. I love the physicality and the match portion of wrestling. But like I said on my life of, entrances, matches, and the promotional material leading to the match, getting people through the door. That's what wrestling is. If you only have one of them, you're not actually good at professional wrestling. And so I like to make sure all of these parts are taken care of. But I wake up to a lot of vitriol towards it. And I'm not really surprised by this. This isn't like emotionally affecting me. But I was reminded that it's very hard to read people's texts online and not read it in a way that sounds entirely angry. I'm writing a lot, but I took 2 codeine on the way home from England and was on the plane for 9 hours with Wi-Fi. What else am I going to do but look at what the internet is saying about me? And sadly, I feel bad for this girl, 19-year-old who wrote a giant think piece about Effy versus Cara Noir. And the first line is, Effy is a Cancer. And
Effy's a Gemini, okay?
Effy's a Gemini with a little bit of Scorpio tendency in my heart.
I mean, you do have your Jupiter's in Cancer, but I don't think you're a Cancer.
Well, this person said I was a Cancer. And, some people were going, listen, this is a little 19-year-old tender queer. And I think looking...
You know what Jupiter in Cancer means? It means you help other people.
Well, that was one of the points I was getting at. And really, you're saying, Effy, you shouldn't even read these things or care about these things. But the reason I do is because in a certain sense, I've written myself a hall pass, right? Mm-hmm. I, as Effy, people say, will Effy ever be on TV? Will Effy ever sign a contract? Taylor might end up taking a job somewhere doing producing or creative or writing or some kind of training or something of that structure. I have a lot of historical reference to other skills that I have besides being in the ring. But the concept of Effy is performance and is art and is its own thing that doesn't ever need to be tethered. And I have other ways that I can financially support myself that are outside of just what that performer does. I think with Effy, I've allowed myself to take even more risks in my art and in my performance because of what I've given back to other people. I know Effy represents certain things about gay characters or gay stereotypes in a way that offends some people, or as this person put it, I was just a bad representation. If I'm at the top of what gay wrestling is, I'm making it look even worse. When I say this to you, I mean it only in kindness. I don't give a fuck about what I represent as Effy other than what I want to represent. Right? I'm not thinking this through to make sure it's going to make everyone look good, because I've created a world where I can find every type of LGBTQ wrestler, all types of outlooks, all types of stories, all types of characters, all types of stylistic wrestlers, be it from the most serious shooters to very silly characters. I have built an empire where I am providing the work to all of these people to say, if you don't like Effy, it's fine. But you cannot say that I'm a bad representation overall, because I've given too many placements and too many spots to people that have affected how things look on TV, that have affected how things look across the indies. Seeing cards where they're not making a big deal out of the fact that there are multiple LGBTQ talents booked that are not in storylines that are LGBTQ based. It's not all me, baby, but I've done a large thing by doing that. And so when I'm reading this article about how, and, she wanted to clarify later, I'm just a bad wrestler. Like, I'm just a bad wrestler. I want you to know something. I've wrestled so many people. If I was a bad wrestler, objectively a bad wrestler, people would get injured constantly with me. We don't see that. People would not like my matches all the time. You don't see that. I've asked Jordan Oliver, if you have, there's an expectation of what Effy is presenting, and I'm going to give you that. If I came out there and all of a sudden I was Dean Malenko, don't worry about knowing that name. It wouldn't. People would be like, we paid to see Effy. We want to see Effy. Very much in the vein of like, as soon as the Beatles get really popular, they want to not be the Beatles anymore. No, I want Effy to be Effy because Effy got popular being Effy. And to say I'm objectively bad at wrestling, you're actually wrong. Your opinion may be that you dislike my matches or you dislike what I have, but also to sound a little rude, more rude than I want this to come across, if me being at the top is a problem, then could one of y'all fucking take me off the top? Could one of y'all have the work ethic, the consistency, the constant amount of matches, the infinite amount and type of opponents that I've had? Anyone from Suzuki to Psycho Clown to John Moxley to Pimpinella Escarlata to, that you can go down the list of legends, and you can go down the list of people coming up and getting through the indies or getting to TV. They've all touched Effy. I'm not quite at a Joey Janela level where every person in wrestling has probably had a moment with Joey, but I'm trying to catch up, and I'm trying to have my world fit into every facet of wrestling. So I'm reading it, and I remember my mother. I hate to bring her up again in this point. My mother was an English major in college, and my mother very much cared about grammar and the way we write and properly expressing yourself. I can say, objectively, you are a bad writer. You have very poor structure of writing, and the way that you get your points across comes across as whiny. And it also comes across to me as something I'm very against, which they said, nuh-uh, you are, in regards to respectability politics. Let me be perfectly clear. I said it on the podcast. I don't want to impress other people by being the type of gay they want me to be. And if we, as baby queers or LGBTQ people, whatever that may be, are saying, well, you're allowed to be whatever you want, but if you're that way, you're just giving them ammunition to hate us. They're going to hate you no matter what. Not if you keep to yourself, will they not hate you? Not if you act a particular way, it's the pretty womanification. It's the Pygmalion of respectability politics by saying, we're glad gay people are getting representation. We're glad that there is more opportunity. But if the gay representation is going to be a gay stereotype, that's not okay. Let me be clear about stereotypes. Stereotypes are something that are caricatured based on things that you often observe in a person. If anything I am doing is stereotypical, it is not me trying to be stereotypical. It is me being the rawest form of myself. People often come up to me and they say, Effy, I love your character. And I go, if you want to see me in character, watch me drop off packages at FedEx wearing khaki shorts and a shirt and saying, I need to make sure these are shipped by a certain day. That is a character that I play. When I am Effy, I am the version of myself that is the most loose and free and wild and me, which is a little offensive, a little adult oriented, a little too horny sometimes, but not in a way that disrespects any other person's consent or value. I am silly. I am fun. I am also aggressive. I am opinionated. I am out there. I want to see if I can get you fired up, and I'll punch you in the fucking face. For anyone that wants to look at any more of my punches, they have one clip of me with Moxley where I really don't want to punch the world champion at AEW in the face when the company's already mad at me for having him there and having the match and it had to be begged for. So maybe I was a little softer on Jon Moxley than I should have been, and he would have never asked for that, but I was in my head about certain things. There's plenty of clips of me punching people. Go find the one where I punch Mance Warner and he goes to his fucking ass. That's a good one if you want to talk about punches. I am not ever going to be what every single person wants me to be. And that's fine. I'm not dissenting their opinion beyond the fact that, like, it's wrong. I disagree with you. But of course I do. I'm Effy, and this is something that's attacking me. If people want to agree or disagree. I did see a lot of people coming sort of into my defense, but I don't even really need any defense. The fact is this. When I put art into the world, I am opening it up for dissection, for discussion, for opinions. And I learned from John Cena, who taught Roman Reigns, who taught me, who taught Seth Rollins in a lot of ways, that if people don't have an opinion on you, that's when you failed. Not if people don't like you or if people do like you. If people don't have an opinion on you, you've failed. I need to be in discussion at every level. I love when people hate Effy because that's them talking more about Effy. And then people who love Effy want to talk more about Effy. But to act like, as a person and artist, that I can't respond to your opinions with the way I feel as well. And I can do it cunty as fuck. I can do it silly as fuck. You can misread it as something it isn't, or you can read it however you want. That's, once again, how reading comprehension works. It doesn't make me any less punk rock if I defend my art. It doesn't. Someone said you can never compare yourself to John Waters because you're responding to criticism. I'm allowed to respond to criticism and still be as punk rock and filth and John Waters as I want to be. I also can have a regular match like I had with Connor Mills at any point in the night if that's how I feel, if that's the version of Effy that's coming out. I'm never going to fake it. I'm only going to be the Effy that's there. My ring introduction, and this still throws people off, you do not include a height, a weight, a hometown, a nickname, or any further information. The only thing you're allowed to say, and I guess there's two things now, GCW World Champion, this is Effy. And that's not particular because I want to be Elvis. That's particular because this is Effy. Whatever you've heard, whatever you've read, whatever you've seen, be it today or yesterday or years ago, that was Effy. But today, what you're looking at, what has just been presented to you in the ring, this is Effy. I only live day to day. Now I can build off my memories. I can build off my old art. I can build off other things. But this is Effy. And they go, well, you don't want me to say no, because if you know, you know. And if you don't, you're going to figure it out. The commentators still think I'm a dick because they go, well, what are the names of your moves? I don't care. Well, isn't this called a move? well, someone called it that, but I don't give a shit what you call it. And they go, well, what do you want me to get over in the match? What do you want me to talk about? And I go, oh, I'm going to show you. You'll talk about what I show you. I think it sounds rude, but I'm also telling you that I am presenting the version of myself that is there that day. I'm presenting the professional that is there at that exact moment. And the version you get is the most valid version. I'm never having to pretend to be anything I am not in that moment, in that time, on that day, which on my hand, I think to negatively troll myself is lazy, but it's also the truest version of performance that I can give people. And when I have to be on and do this as much as I have to do it, you're still turning it on to wrestle and be in this match. But I'm not turning on an additional proximity where I have to be the keep it to beaver neighbor who's like, well, Mrs. Cleaver, this is what a wonderful, and then he gets outside and he's like, we should smoke fucking cigarettes. No, I want to give you the version that's there. And when I greet you, I want to greet you with truth and with honesty. And if I'm not feeling up to it, I'm not going to come back to the table because I don't want to give you that fake version, and I can't do that. Needless to say, you reviewed all of Effy and threw all of Effy away over one spot in one match. And I don't think your opinion is wrong because it's your opinion. I think your opinion is wrong because it's such a tight and narrow view of what I've been able to do, where it's like, you know, you've found that there might be a bay leaf in the soup, so you can't eat the whole thing because you can't eat the bay leaf. Throw the bay leaf out. What do you have then? It's not worth my heart and soul and time to continue defending myself to people, but I do like opening up the discussion, and I do feel like as a performer that is seen on a large stage that is globally able to be reached, responding and having communication, I wish it didn't read as mean as it reads when you're just speaking, but there's a way we read social media now, and that's the way it's done. You can't say the same thing about me responding to your art when you've responded to my art. It's a cyclical thing now. Communication is open to the world. I can choose to do what I want to do. Will I eat another egg? Yeah, I might fucking eat another egg. That shit was hilarious. I sold shirts that said Effy sucks eggs that people bought. I sold more seminars for people to come in. I had more people on my Twitch on Tuesday night. And, you know, seeing these things translate, I'm not saying that I'm reaching out to get negativity. That's not what I want. But I am saying if you think that any moment, negative or positive, all press is good press, I'm not going to twist it and use PR to make it into my narrative, whatever your narrative may be. I know you're probably not used to opening your phone and having 100 notifications, are you, author of paper? Well, welcome to Effy's world. I'm going to respond, and I come with a little bit of a fist. I'm not saying you should be scared to share your opinion, but when Effy comes to you about your opinion, you should be able to back it up without muting the article away, and that's not what I really meant, and that's not what I said. Stick with it. And also, to everyone out there, proofread. Proofread your fucking articles. It was silly. Karen Noir, fantastic person, and, you know, I'm going to be Effy. I hope that it makes you feel a type of way, right? If it doesn't make you feel anything, I don't think I'm doing that. I'm not going for pure reaction, but sometimes I know how to get you very easily. And the reaction, even of fans, was, Effy, I love you, but that is horrible and disgusting. I know you didn't even want to watch the video of it, and that's fine. It's not for everyone. If you don't like that 3 minutes of Effy, there's literally days worth of Effy material that you can go through and find a 3 minutes that you might like or you do like. So hopefully this is another way for people to find out about how much breadth and history and depth there is. Is breadth the word? I feel like it is. Depth there is to the actual Effy portfolio. And for me, it's another way to go like clockwork. Every other month, I'm national news in wrestling somehow or beyond wrestling somehow. And it's never less energy that goes into it to deal with these things. But I'll tell you what, I haven't been in any way stressed out this week over it. I've discussed it, but I've had people reaching out saying, you know, between the 1-2 punch of, you know, Allie getting injured and that being horrific and kind of throwing the whole thing off, not she's the most important part, but just in general. And then on top of it, you're opening it, you know, every day you're opening it, there's all this hate and vitriol, and, you know, you're giving the Republicans and the gays who are against you both the same reason to yell at you for, which, folks, that's what they're going to do in the future. This isn't a political podcast, but life is political now. Don't give them reasons for us to self-censor ourselves in in the thought of respecting that they will somehow respect us or pick us or choose us. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. But to act like I'm a negative detriment to the future of LGBTQ wrestling is one of the worst takes and dumbest takes I've ever heard in my life. And if you don't like my matches, that's fine. Why do you think I booked the brunch? Why do you think you book a Kid Bandit on the brunch? Because there's people who love Kid Bandit, and Kid Bandit's a very different style of wrestler and a very different personality. And there are people who will come to see Kid Bandit that would not necessarily come on the Effy name. But there's also Effy fans who would go, well, that's fucking cool too. And all of that together provides a diverse, interesting show that is not actually very much so focused on Effy. We've made that point, and I'll make it until I die. It's called Effy's Big Gay Brunch because it's funny that this show that egotistically has my name and face plastered all over it is actually just a way for me to show you how many wrestlers are out there that are so sick that you had no idea of, and usually for me to take a big loss. It's funny to me. It's funny to me, Peter. Either way, I'm not, as you can see, I'm very casual about this. I have enjoyed being on top of the lips, and it's a good kickoff into Big Gay Brunch season because it reminds me that this Big Gay Brunch does not need to be of decorum. This Big Gay Brunch does not need to be kind and respectful, especially in a time like now. It needs to be full of honesty and punk rock and showing people that you can't stop us. You can't stop us from existing. You can't stop us from not only living, but thriving. And your censorship of us and your rules that you've given yourself, be it through a certain sense of fake morals or religious obligation, does not apply to our world. And if I got to stand in front of that and keep taking hits because me and a man with a baby who wears swan makeup spit eggs into each other's mouths and it ruined your life, then fucking so be it, baby. Bring it on. Throw tomatoes next time. I'll eat the egg again. I'll eat it right back out of his mouth. I would have triple baby birded it if I had the chance. If I knew it was going to cause this much drama, I would have triple baby birded that egg. That thing would have been scrambled. I opened TikTok the other day and it was a woman sucking an egg off a plate, swishing it and then spitting it into the pan. And I said, my influence, my God. If anything, though, I've taken the demand of eggs down through grossing people out by eggs as a texture, and I'm doing everything I can to reverse how fucked the economy is about to be under Trump. How about that, Peter? Weekend at Effy's, thank you for joining us. You will always get the truth from us here. Please subscribe, like, comment. Check us out on the YouTube video. Hey, YouTube. We don't really promote the YouTube at all, which I think I should probably pay someone to do that. I think we're missing out on people, but I'm not going to learn YouTube right now when I can find a guy on Fiverr who knows how to tell people we're on YouTube. We'll figure it out. Weekendateffys.com for the Patreon. Thank you so much for supporting us. Thank you for listening. Like, comment, subscribe. Don't review it falsely. Review it honestly. Maybe you hate Effy and you want to give us 1 star. If I see a podcast that's all 5 stars, I'm like, I don't know. It seems like they're paying them.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get some vitriol in the reviews so that we can bump these fucking numbers up, baby. Weekend at Effy's. I love you all.